My name is Claire Donovan. I'm 31 years old. I own a home in Nashville, Tennessee. I have a dog named Walter, a best friend named Priya who has been by my side for 11 years, and a company I built from a $200 laptop and a folding table in a studio apartment. I wake up every morning and I still have to remind myself that this is real, that I made it, that no one can take it away from me. Not anymore. Because 14 years ago, someone tried. And that someone wasn't a stranger. She was my older sister. She sat across from me at our parents' kitchen table every Sunday for the first 17 years of my life. She borrowed my sweaters without asking. She knew my middle name, my blood type, my social security number, and she used every single one of them to disappear and leave me standing in the wreckage. If you've ever had someone you loved become the person who destroyed you, you know exactly what kind of silence I'm talking about. The kind that doesn't make noise. The kind that just hollows you out. I'm going to tell you everything. But before I do, have you ever been betrayed by the one person you thought would never, ever hurt you? Because I need you to understand what that feels like before you understand what came next. Drop a comment below. Tell me your story. And stay with me, because what happened 14 years later, I couldn't have written it if I tried. My family looked normal from the outside. Most families that are quietly breaking apart do. My parents, Robert and Sandra Donovan, were both school teachers in Clarksville, Tennessee. My father taught 8th grade history. My mother taught 4th grade reading. We lived in a 3-bedroom ranch house on Willow Creek Drive with a vegetable garden my mother never had time for and a basketball hoop in the driveway my father used on Saturday mornings when he thought nobody was watching. We were comfortable. Not wealthy. Comfortable. We had enough, which meant we also had enough pressure to keep it that way. My sister Amber was 4 years older than me. She was everything my parents had hoped for in a firstborn, driven, confident, socially effortless. She was the homecoming queen at Clarksville High. She was the one who got into the University of Tennessee on a partial scholarship and came home at Thanksgiving in sweatshirts with the logo on the chest like a badge. She was the one my father introduced at family gatherings with a hand on her shoulder and a voice full of quiet pride. I was the one who came along and complicated things, not because I was bad. I want to be clear about that. I wasn't a troubled kid. I wasn't a wild teenager. I was just different from what they expected. I liked books more than football games. I taught myself graphic design on a free online platform when I was 14 because I found it beautiful. The way you could arrange shapes and color and space and make something that made people feel something. My parents didn't know what to do with that. It didn't fit into a category they understood, so they smiled politely at my work and asked if I had thought about what I actually wanted to do with my life. Amber was studying business. That was real. That made sense. What I made on a laptop in my bedroom was a hobby. But here's the thing about being overlooked quietly over a long period of time. You stop expecting to be seen. You just learn to exist in the margins. I was good at it. I made myself useful, stayed out of conflict, and kept my head down. I genuinely loved my sister. I thought she loved me back. I was 17 when I found out I was wrong. It started with a letter, not even an important-looking letter. A plain white envelope from a bank I had never opened an account with, addressed to Claire Elizabeth Donovan, our home address. I was the only one home when it arrived. I opened it because I didn't think twice. It was addressed to me. It was a statement, a credit card statement. The account had been opened 11 months earlier. The balance was $14,800. I had never seen that card in my life. My hands were shaking when I called Amber. She was a senior in college. She picked up on the fourth ring, laughing at something in the background. Amber. Someone opened a credit card in my name. A pause, the laughing stopped. What? She sounded confused, genuinely confused. The kind of confused that's so perfect it almost sounds real. There's a statement here. $14,000. I've never had this card. That's wow, Claire, that sounds like identity theft. You should call the bank, call mom and dad. She said it so smoothly. Call mom and dad. Like she was a bystander. Like she was just another person in the world who had nothing to do with what was in my hands. I called the bank. And then I called mom and dad. And then, because I needed to understand how someone had gotten my social security number, my date of birth, my mother's maiden name, I started looking. I pulled every piece of paper I could find. And piece by piece, across 3 days, the picture assembled itself. Amber had opened the card the summer before her senior year. She'd made payments for a few months to keep it from flagging. Then she'd maxed it out and stopped paying. She had used my identity to take out a personal loan the year before that, $6,000, also unpaid. And there was a second credit card from a different bank, another $9,000. My sister had stolen my financial identity before I was old enough to vote. When I confronted her, she didn't deny it for long. She cried. She told me she had gotten into debt she couldn't manage, some of it from a guy she had been seeing, some of it from just bad choices. She said she'd always meant to pay it back. She said she didn't think I would ever need credit this young. She said, and I will never forget this as long as I live, she said, "You weren't using it, Claire. You weren't using it." Like my identity was a parking spot she'd borrowed while I wasn't looking. My parents found out. And here is where my story turns into the kind of thing people don't believe until it happens to them. My father sat us both down at the kitchen table, and he looked at me, not at Amber, at me, and he said, "We are not going to destroy our family over money." He meant, we are not going to destroy Amber's future over money. He meant, you will not call the police. You will not press charges. You will not report this. My mother cried and held Amber's hand and talked about how much pressure she had been under and how she just needed to get back on her feet. They offered to make it right somehow, someday, without saying how or when. And then they looked at me and waited for me to agree. I was 17 years old, sitting in the house I grew up in, and I understood for the first time exactly where I ranked in this family. I understood that my father's saying about keeping the family together did not apply to me. I was the family. I was just not the part they were trying to protect. I did not agree. I told them I was going to report it. My father told me if I did, I could find somewhere else to live. It was a Wednesday, school night, November. I went upstairs, packed a bag, and left. I was 17 years old with $60, a backpack, and no plan. I want to stop here for a second. Because this is the part of the story where most people expect me to say I went to a friend's house and everything was okay, or that I came back the next day, or that my parents came to their senses within the week. None of that happened. I called my friend Priya from a gas station pay phone. Yes, there was still a working pay phone, and she answered on the second ring. "What's wrong?" Her voice was already worried. I told her. She told her mother. Her mother, a woman named Dr. Anita Mehta, a pediatric dentist who had met me exactly 4 times, said, "Tell her to come here." I showed up at the Mehta house at 10:30 at night with a backpack and eyes so swollen I could barely see. Anita Mehta opened the door and looked at me for exactly 1 second before she said, "You're staying in Priya's room. Come in." I stayed for 6 weeks. In those 6 weeks, I turned 18. I filed a police report. I disputed the accounts with all 3 credit bureaus. I got a part-time job at a print shop on Riverside Drive because the owner, a 60-year-old man named Gerald Park, had seen some of my design work that Priya had printed there as a birthday gift and said, "Who made this?" When I told him I did, he said he'd teach me the printing side if I'd do some design work for his shop on the weekends. My parents called once in those 6 weeks. It was my mother. She said she hoped I'd calm down and that the door was open when I was ready to apologize. I did not call back. I finished my senior year by couch surfing, staying primarily with Priya, and taking community college classes at night through a dual enrollment program. I graduated high school in the spring. I was 18, legally an adult, with no debt of my own. I had fought and won every dispute, and a portfolio of design work I had been quietly building for 4 years. Gerald Park let me use the shop's equipment after hours. He paid me in cash, which I saved like it was oxygen. The summer after graduation, I moved to Nashville with $1,400, a laptop Priya had helped me buy from a refurbished electronics sale, and a folding table I found on the side of the road. If you're still with me, I need you to understand something. I am not telling you this story to make you feel sorry for me. The years that followed were hard, but they were also mine. No one could take them from me because no one had given them to me. Every single inch of what came next, I earned. And I want you to understand that before we get to what happened 2 months ago, because what Amber did when she showed up at my door, it only makes sense if you know who I had become. Stay with me. Nashville was not kind to me in the beginning. It was hot and loud and expensive in ways I hadn't calculated. And the design industry there was full of people who had degrees from schools I couldn't afford and connections I didn't have. I worked at a coffee shop for the first 8 months. I did freelance logo work at night for $50 a job, $75 if I negotiated, and I studied every contract, every brand identity system, every designer I admired online until I could talk about design the way people talked about languages they'd grown up speaking. In 2016, I got my first real client. A local restaurant owner named Dominic Reyes who needed a full brand identity, logo, signage, menus, social media. He had a budget of $3,000. I almost cried when he said the number. I quoted $2,800 so I wouldn't seem too eager. That project became my portfolio centerpiece. Dominic referred me to 2 other restaurant owners. Those 2 referred me to 3 more. By the end of 2017, I had quit the coffee shop and was doing design full-time. By 2019, I had 4 regular clients and had brought on a part-time contractor to help with production work. By 2021, I had incorporated Donovan Creative Group, 7 clients, 2 full-time employees, a real office in the Gulch neighborhood with exposed brick and a coffee machine that did not require coins. By 2023, I had 16 clients, 6 employees, and revenue that would have made 17-year-old Claire faint on the spot. I also had not spoken to my family in 14 years, not once. Amber had tried twice. A Facebook message in 2015 that I read and did not answer. A card in 2018 mailed to Priya's parents' address, which meant she'd track that down somehow, that said she thought about me all the time and she was sorry. I photographed the card and put it in a folder on my computer labeled evidence, not because I was planning anything, just because I needed proof that I wasn't imagining things. That what happened had happened, that the apology, small as it was, confirmed it. My parents I heard about only through Priya, who still lived in Clarksville and occasionally ran into them at the grocery store or at church events. She would give me brief updates when I asked, "Your dad retired. Your mom has a new dog. They moved to a smaller house." I absorbed these updates like weather reports about a city I no longer lived in. I had built my own life. I had Priya. I had my work. I had Walter the dog, who I adopted in 2020 from a shelter on Charlotte Pike and who has never once betrayed me. I did not need anything else. And then, on a Tuesday afternoon in March 2024, I was at my desk reviewing a brand proposal for a healthcare startup, and my assistant knocked on my door and said someone was in the lobby who didn't have an appointment. She said the woman had given her name and asked her to pass it along. The name was Amber Donovan. I want to tell you what my body did before my mind could catch up. My chest tightened. My hands went flat on the desk. Everything in me went quiet in the way it goes quiet when something dangerous is nearby and your body knows it before your brain processes it. I sat there for 45 seconds. Then I said, "Send her in." I don't know why. I've thought about it many times since. I think I needed to know what 14 years looked like on her face. I think I needed to see what she had done with the time she'd bought herself by throwing me out. She walked in and she looked smaller than I remembered. Amber had always been the tall one, the confident one, the one who walked into rooms like she'd reserved them in advance. The woman who walked into my office was 35 years old and looked like someone who had been carrying something very heavy for a very long time. She stopped when she saw me. She looked around the office, the real furniture, the art on the walls, the framed press features from Nashville Business Journal and Tennessee Design Quarterly, and something moved across her face. Something I recognized as grief, not for me, for herself, for what she had imagined versus what she was looking at. Claire. Her voice was quieter than I expected. Amber. Mine was steady. I had years of practice being steady. She sat in the chair across from my desk without being invited. I let her because I wanted to hear what she had come to say and because I needed to watch her say it. She talked for 20 minutes. The short version, Amber had graduated college, gotten a job in finance, met a man named Derek, married him at 28, had a daughter, now 5 years old, named Sophie. The marriage had been difficult, then impossible. Derek had turned out to be financially reckless and emotionally cruel in ways that had taken her years to name out loud. They had divorced the previous spring. She had come out of it with minimal savings, a shared custody agreement, and a financial record that was, she paused here, complicated. I waited. When she said the next part, she was looking at her hands. There's a position, she said. It's a director-level role in the corporate social responsibility division of a company called Hartwell Partners. It's in Nashville. Good salary, benefits, stability for Sophie and me. I've been trying to get back on my feet since the divorce. I said nothing. I waited. They do a thorough background and financial history check. She exhaled. The credit issues from when I was younger. Her eyes came up and met mine. My name is attached to some of those. It's flagging. I let the silence sit for a moment. You want me to help you? My voice was flat, not angry, just flat. I want to explain. She leaned forward. I want to tell you how sorry I am. I have been sorry for 14 years, Claire. I was young and I was stupid and I was scared, and none of that excuses what I did, but I need you to know that I know that. I know what I did to you. I looked at my sister, this woman who had my eyes and my mother's chin, and who had used my name to borrow money before I was old enough to sign a lease, and I asked her one question. What is it you're actually asking me to do? She said she had spoken to a lawyer. She said that if I was willing to sign a statement confirming that the accounts had been opened without my consent and had since been resolved, it might help contextualize the flag on her background check. She had already identified the relevant accounts and the documentation. She just needed my signature and a brief statement confirming the resolution. She also said, and I want you to hear this part carefully, that she was not asking me to lie. Everything she was describing was true. The accounts had been disputed and resolved. She just needed me to confirm it. She slid a folder across my desk. I picked it up. I looked at the papers inside, and I thought about a 17-year-old girl standing outside a gas station with $60 and a backpack, calling her best friend because she had nowhere to go. I closed the folder. I placed it back on the desk between us, and I said, I need a week. She blinked. She had expected yes or no. I need a week, I repeated. I have some things I need to think through. Leave me the folder. I'll be in touch. She left her number on a card. She thanked me. She looked for a moment like she was going to cry. I waited until she was gone, and then I sat in my office for a long time without moving. I called Priya that night. She picked up before the first ring finished. She was there, I said. I know. What did she want? I told her everything. Priya was quiet in the way she gets quiet when she's thinking hard. What do you want to do? She asked when I finished. I don't know yet, I said. But I'm not signing anything until I understand exactly what I'm dealing with. Then let's figure out exactly what you're dealing with. This is the part of my story where I stopped reacting and started deciding. I spent the week doing 3 things. First, I called an attorney. Not because I was planning to sue Amber, I wasn't, but because I needed to understand exactly what I was being asked to sign and what it would mean for me legally. My attorney, a woman named Dana Kessler who had handled the legal side of several of my business contracts, reviewed the documents in 2 hours and called me back. The statement Amber wanted me to sign was, in fact, accurate, Dana confirmed. It contained no lies. Signing it would not expose me to any liability. It would simply verify facts that were already documented. Then she said, "But you are under no obligation to sign it." And the fact that she needs this from you specifically, from the person she harmed, is not nothing. I sat with that. Second, I called Gerald Park, my first boss, the man who taught me the print side of the industry when I was 18 and homeless and had nothing to offer except work ethic and an eye for design. He was 74 now, semi-retired, still answered the phone with the same flat, no-nonsense hello. I told him what was happening. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Claire, I've known you since you were a kid standing in the rain outside my shop at 6 in the morning to open before the owner even got there. What does your gut say?" "My gut," I said slowly, "says that she's sorry, that it's real, that she is not the same person she was at 21. Then he said, "And what does the part of you that spent years rebuilding what she tore down say?" I didn't answer that right away, but I felt it. Third, and this is the part I did not expect to do, I drove to Clarksville. I don't know what I was looking for. I drove past Willow Creek Drive, past the house with the vegetable garden that my mother still probably never had time for, past the high school, past the library where I used to go on Saturdays to use the computers. I drove past the gas station where I had called Priya from a pay phone 14 years ago. It was still there. Different logo now, different pumps. But the same corner, same lot, same angle of afternoon light. I sat in my car in that parking lot for a long time. I thought about what it had cost me. Not in money, the money was long resolved. In time, in years. In the version of my childhood that ended the night I walked out of my parents' house. I thought about the Thanksgiving dinners I hadn't had, and the family photos that had gone on without me, and the niece I had never met, a little girl named Sophie who was 5 years old and had no idea I existed. I thought about what it would cost me to walk forward and what it would cost me to keep standing still. When I drove back to Nashville that evening, I knew what I was going to do. Not because it was the easy choice, not because Amber deserved it, but because I had spent 14 years building a life on my own terms, and those terms included not letting other people's cruelty determine who I became. I called Amber the following morning. She answered on the second ring. Her voice was careful, held tight. "I'm going to sign the statement," I said. She exhaled. "Thank you, Claire. Thank you so much. I'm not done," I said. "There are conditions." Silence. First condition, you tell Sophie the truth. Not today, not in detail, not in a way that's harmful to a 5-year-old. But as she gets older, you tell her the truth about what you did and what it cost. You don't raise her on a version of our family that erases what happened. Amber's voice was barely audible. Okay. Second condition, I want to meet her. Sophie, not as a favor to you, because she's my niece and I have already missed 5 years and I'm not interested in missing more. A long pause. Yes, of course. Third condition, you and I are not going to pretend this is fixed. You don't get to sign the statement and call us even. We are going to figure out what, if anything, we are to each other now. Slowly. On my timeline, not yours, I understand, she said quietly. And fourth, this is not negotiable. You are going to tell our parents that you spoke to me, not what we discussed, that's between us, but that you saw me, that I'm okay, that I built a life. Because I have spent 14 years as someone they pretended didn't exist, and I am done being invisible to people who are still alive and capable of knowing better. She was crying now. I could hear it without seeing her face. Yes, I'll tell them. I'm going to mail you the signed statement today. She said my name, the way you say someone's name when you can't figure out how to say everything else. Claire, I said, I know. I signed the statement. I mailed it the same afternoon. And then I sat with what I had done, which was not forgiveness. I want to be precise about that, but a decision. A decision to stop organizing my life around the people who had hurt me and to start organizing it around who I wanted to become. There's a difference. It matters. 3 weeks after I mailed the statement, Amber called to tell me she had gotten the job. I told her I was glad. She asked if she could bring Sophie to Nashville sometime. If we could meet somewhere neutral, somewhere low pressure, maybe a park or a family-friendly restaurant. She said Sophie had been asking about whether she had any aunts. I said yes. I said Saturday in 3 weeks and to text me the time. When I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table with Walter's head on my foot, and I thought about what it means to survive something. Not just to get through it, but to actually survive it. To come out the other side still yourself. Still capable of choosing what comes next. The morning of the Saturday we'd agreed on, I was at the park early. Walter was home. I'd decided not to bring a dog to a first meeting with a 5-year-old I'd never met. Too many variables. I had a cup of coffee and a bench and the Tennessee spring doing what it does, which is apologize for winter by turning everything green all at once. Amber came around the path with Sophie on her hip, and my niece was looking at everything with the wide-eyed certainty of a child who finds the whole world completely extraordinary. She had Amber's dark hair and someone else's curious eyes and a jacket with a small dinosaur on the pocket. She looked at me the way kids look at new people, direct, unafraid, forming an opinion in real time. "Hi," I said. She said, "Are you my Aunt Claire?" And something in my chest, something that had been held very still for a very long time, shifted. I said, "Yeah, I'm your Aunt Claire." And she reached out her arms the way small children do, with total confidence that the world will catch them, and I picked her up, this small stranger who was also somehow mine, and I held on. This is not a story about forgiveness, exactly. I want to say that clearly because I think these stories often get flattened into something they're not. Amber is not forgiven. Forgiveness is a long road, and we are at the very beginning of it if we are on it at all. My parents have not called. I have not called them. I don't know what that part of the story looks like yet. What I know is this. I was 17 years old, and someone I loved turned my name into a financial instrument and cashed it in. I was thrown out of my house for refusing to pretend that was acceptable. I spent years building something from nothing, from $60 and a folding table and a borrowed laptop, and I built it well. I built it true. I built it mine. And when the person who started all of it showed up at my door after 14 years, I didn't fold. I didn't rage. I made conditions. I set terms. I decided on my own timeline what I was willing to carry into the next chapter and what I was finally ready to put down. That's not a happy ending. It's a real one. If you're listening to this and you've been told that what someone did to you isn't worth fighting over, if you've been told to keep quiet, to keep the peace, to protect someone else's reputation at the cost of your own, I need you to hear this. You were allowed to fight back then. You are allowed to fight back now. Survival doesn't require their permission. Neither does healing. Your name is yours. Your story is yours. No one gets to borrow it without your consent. If this meant something to you, please share it. Like it. Subscribe, because next week's story is about the business deal that almost cost me everything I'd built and the person I never expected to save it. You don't want to miss it. And if you have a story of your own about being overlooked, written off, underestimated, drop it in the comments. I read every single one, because everyone who's been made invisible deserves someone who will look them in the eye and say, I see you. I've always been able to see you. You were never nothing. You were just waiting for the right audience.